Hey, Huckleberry friends. One of the most common questions we're receiving right now about our Cascade cart is what is the weight limit? 150 pounds is the weight limit of the cart, but there's another question that needs to go in tandem with that, and that is how easy is it to balance? This is especially important if you plan to operate the cart as an independent Sherpa, meaning without any assistance from anyone else, like you can see me doing here. This is dependent on something called the Sherpa to payload weight ratio. We also call it the SPR. When we refer to the Sherpa, we're referring to the person pulling the cart. I'm going to do a sample calculation with you to show you how to do this. So we'll use my weight, which is 220 pounds. Notice I didn't put the units here. I only put 220 because the same calculation applies to kilograms. Just be sure that whatever unit you're using, that you'll be consistent with all your measurements. The Sherpa weight shouldn't include any additional weight carried with you, only your personal weight. The payload is the combined weight of your passenger and any cargo you're carrying on or behind the passenger. For our example today, we'll say my daughter and the cargo that I'm carrying is a combined 80 pounds. Now that we have those two weights, let's calculate our SPR. This is done with a simple calculation by dividing the Sherpa weight by the payload weight. I'm going to take my weight, which was 220, and divide that by my payload weight of 80. Again, make sure you're consistent with your units here. Both should be in kilos or both should be in pounds. If you divide pounds by kilos, that would not be good, and you'll see why later. In our case, the SPR is equal to 2.75. Now let's interpret that. If you recall, the second question that we're answering here is how easy is it to balance? Therefore, the higher the SPR value, the easier it is to balance. As we've tested this with dozens of people, we found that when the SPR is above 2.5, it's considered to be very easy to balance. An SPR between 2 and 2.5 is slightly challenging, but some have reported it to also be easy. Then once you start to drop below 2, it quickly becomes increasingly challenging, and we highly recommend the use of somebody helping balance from behind. If you as the Sherpa are very close to or even less than the weight of the payload that you plan to carry, that means that your SPR value is less than or equal to 1, and that is not good. Don't do that. You can still be the Sherpa, just make sure you have somebody helping stabilize from behind. One last thing to consider is that these SPR values we talked about today are not a hard and fast rule. They're simply a starting point to help you gain a general understanding of what it might feel like for your scenario. There's a lot of other factors that have to be taken into account, one of them being the Sherpa's height, Sherpa's overall physical condition, the passenger height, as well as the passenger overall activity back there. If they like to move around a lot, that's going to affect you as the Sherpa. And lastly, the terrain also plays hugely into this, that if you're walking on hard, flat ground, you're going to have a different experience than if you're on steep, rocky terrain doing switchbacks. Hopefully this helps you gain a little bit of an understanding of what it might look like for you. We're going to be posting some more videos that will demonstrate other Sherpas and passengers using the product that will help give you an idea of what different SPR values look like. Until then, be safe out there on the trails.